And to legislative matters, suspended senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, has vowed to resume plenary activities on Tuesday in line with a court decision. The court's judgment, delivered on July 4, 2025, ruled that the senator's 6-month suspension by the Senate was unlawful, excessive, and a clear violation of her constitutional right to represent her constituents. The court held that the action contravened Section 63 of the 1999 Constitution and floated that Senate standing orders, which limit such suspensions to just 14 days. Briefing journalists in her constituency, the lawmaker, who was suspended in March, maintained that while the suspension did not stop her from delivering projects to her constituents, it hindered her ability to carry out key legislative duties such as sponsoring bills and moving motions. Now, to help us make sense of this, we are joined by legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, Tohwo Oseruvwoja. Hello, Tohwo, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Celestine. Good evening.
Good evening. So we understand that we've had different Tuesdays in this issue. So suspended Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has vowed to resume activities on Tuesday in line with the court decision. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, Natasha's case should be judged among those added to some of the excesses of the legislative arm. And I think if history is being taught, apart from the scandal of Farouk Lawa of the 8th Assembly, then down to the issue of Obioma, the day of the missing mouse, Maze of the 9th Assembly, then Senator Natasha's issue should be one of those issues that history need to recall. Well, I don't think she needs to vow for her to be at the sitting on Tuesday. For her to be in the sitting is a court order, and to all those who believe in the rule of law, the action of the Senate is excessive, which I align myself with the decision of the court, and it contravenes every no spirit of the Constitution. I'll give you a good example. If you look at the Constitution is supreme to any other laws that operate in Nigeria, and the Senate or the National Assembly should be aware of this. If you are suspending someone that is constitutionally required to be in a sitting for 180 days, it's a constitutional requirement. It's not something that we need to beat all about. Section 63 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria made it so clear. And you are suspending that person for 6 months. And if you look at Section 68, which the court rely on, you discover that the court makes it clear when it comes to the tenure of a senator or a member of House of Assembly that he cannot, that such a person, if you look at subsection 1, paragraph F, such a person cannot be absent for one-third is 60 days. So if you are suspending that person for a just cause, suspension cannot be a just cause in every ramification of law or jurisprudence.
Does the judgment expressly permit her to resume office, or is further legislative or administrative action required for reinstatement?
No, there is no further. If you look at the judgment, let's discuss, because I've been privileged to read Natasha's court process, but one way or the other, I've not been able to have the defense filed by the Senate. But if you look at the judgment simpliciter, because it's not ambiguous, if you see the judgment is so clear that the decision of the Senate is null and void and is excessive, and it contravenes the provision of the Constitution. And when an action contravenes the provision of the Constitution, that action, to the extent of the contravention, becomes null and void. And the court is so explicit as to that regard. So there is no need for her even saying, okay, I vow. Obviously, that suspension by virtue of the court order has been stopped. That suspension has been stopped. And I'm also aware within the public domain that the Senate has filed an appeal over the judgment of the Federal High Court. Well, it's fantastic, but it's elementary to any lawyer. And I think this is our time, the legal profession as a body need to start sanctioning lawyers who takes the decision of the court for granted. A notice of appeal in civil issues does not automatically stand as a stay of the benefit of such a judgment. So the appeal can be decided, but we should not forget that the Supreme Court has not expressly made a decision to this, has not expressly made a decision to the power of the National Assembly to suspend this member. But I think if you, there's a case in 2007 thereabout, 2007 or 2006, where the Supreme Court said that the powers of the National Assembly is subject to the supremacy of the Constitution, and their conduct and activities must be guided and must be within the confines of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that is what the court has said. And I believe what ought to be done, as like I said, if the Senate is not careful, Natasha's case will be one of the legislative scandals or legislative malfunction in the history of Nigeria.
So, can a suspended senator legally return to the Senate floor without a formal lifting of the suspension by the Senate leadership?
Yeah, no, first of all, you could see what the issue should be, why did Natasha approach the court of approach the Federal High Court? It's as a result of the suspension. And if the court have said that that suspension is null and void, obviously from all known law, that suspension ceases to exist. So it's not about the fact that, okay, the Senate has made such suspension. It's about the fact that the court has ruled. This is where the separation of power comes, that the judiciary is to checkmate the excesses of the two other arms of government. And whatever the judiciary has said, because this is an issue of the Constitution, this is an issue of interpretation, which is within the powers of the court by virtue of Section 6 of the Constitution. So the court has said that the suspension be represented by both, because the Senate was a party to the issue. And he said that the suspension is null and void. That is null and void. So there's no formal legality. All is expected is the Senate, who ought to be the pinnacle of law-abiding institution, arm of government in Nigeria, ought to abide. As a matter of fact, I was expecting the spokesman of the Senate to welcome her rather than the boomerang statement he was making and the exchange of words from Natasha. I think those are unnecessary.
Tohwo, if the Senate leadership refuses to comply with the judgment, what are the legal remedies available to Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan?
I think the content proceedings must be followed. The content proceedings must be followed, because those people who, in one way or the other, will stop the enforcement or the benefit of which we call the fruit of the judgment, those will be held accountable. And I think it's our time. Some of us are scared what will happen that day, but I believe distinguished Senator Akpabio, let me use the word distinguished Senator Akpabio, is a lawyer, and I believe most of the distinguished members of the Senate, they are all lawyers. Some of them are lawyers, and they'll be able to trend with caution. But another thing again is that we should look at the second aspect of the judgment, and I believe that Senator Natasha should also exhibit some level of law-abiding and the respect of the judiciary to uphold the other side of the judgment of tendering apology and also paying the fine, which obviously is also, but that is not a condition. That is not a condition for her not to access the Senate House or not to carry out a legislative function. So it's left for the other party to go the other way too, to ensure that the content proceedings is carried against her if she did not apply, if she did not fulfill the provisions of the judgment. But for any other thing, she's free, and she's a distinguished senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and all entitlement as at when the judgment was made, she's entitled to such privileges and entitlement as a distinguished senator.
Thank you. It was nice to have you, Tohwo, join us this afternoon.
You're welcome, Celestine.